Think you know the Tommy gun? The trench coat swagger, the chattering drum, the cinematic smoke? Today, we're diving past the greatest hits reel and into the family reunion nobody talks about. The weird, the crazy, and the straight-up absurd Thompson variants that tried to turn a streetwise subgun into everything from a belt-fed trench broom to a bayonet-stabbing machine rifle. Start at the beginning, where the Thompson wasn't a Tommy gun at all. John T. Thompson's earliest brainchild was nicknamed the Persuader, and it wasn't shy. A belt-fed .45 caliber portable shredder conceived to sweep trenches in the final act of World War I. Picture it. Pistol cartridges marching off a cloth belt, a compact receiver chewing through them like a sewing machine gone feral. It was audacious, borderline ridiculous, and just late enough to miss the war it was born for. From there, it shapeshifted into the Annihilator prototypes, box magazine feeders that brought the concept much closer to the submachine gun we recognize. They ran hot, reportedly well north of 1,000 rounds per minute in some test trims, and they ran flashy, spitting fire with finned barrels and that soon-to-be signature Cuts compensator. It looked like speed embodied, and it mostly was. But in a delicious twist of Thompson lore, the very delay system that launched the idea, the Blish principle, turned out to be a solution in search of a problem. Fast forward to the model of 1919 and the polished Colt-made model of 1921, and the brand is minted. Vertical foregrip, drum mags, and that unmistakable silhouette. But our tour is about the ones that veered off the highway. Enter the model of 1923. Auto Ordnance's attempt to sell the U.S. military on a machine rifle version of the Thompson. Longer barrel, bipod, bayonet lug, a slab-sided forend, and a hotter cartridge, the .45 Remington Thompson meant to stretch the humble pistol round into something with real reach. It was part confidence game, part genuine engineering push. The result? Spectacle. It wore a bayonet like a cosplay BAR, dug its spiked shoes into the dirt with a bipod, and tried to convince planners that a heavy .45 could bridge the gap between subgun and light machine gun. In truth, the cartridge was fussy, the added furniture turned a handy blaster into a clumsy mule, and logistics officers frowned at yet another ammunition type. Still, as an alternate timeline, it's irresistible. The Thompson as a bayonet-thrusting support gun rumbling next to Springfield rifles, an American oddball answer to a question no one kept asking. Speaking of heavy, the drum magazines pushed the Thompson from iconic to absurd on pure optics alone. The 100-round C drum is the quintessential movie prop and a very real, very finicky slab of steel that turns a reasonably compact gun into a bowling ball with a trigger. Yes, it could work, especially when lovingly tuned, but try sprinting with one while the bolt chatters like a typewriter. The contrast is delicious. A design pitched as a fast, mobile trench broom suddenly dragging a chrome anvil under its chin. Then there were the attempts to hush the chatter. Several suppressed Thompsons were experimented with, including integrally baffled barrels and oversized cans grafted to M1928s. On paper, .45 ACP is a suppressor's friend, heavy bullets already subsonic, but the reality was bulky, nose-heavy hardware that stole the gun's balance and still couldn't hide the clack of an open-bolt action. Special units kept tinkering, but by the time silencing truly matured, the M3 grease gun stole the job with a simpler, cheaper, better-mannered package. Our grand old diva ceded the whisper game to a wallflower. Meanwhile, the law nudged the Thompson into unintentional comedy. To sell a legal civilian version, Auto Ordnance bred the Model 1927 and later long-barreled 1927 A1s that stretched the classic lines into a gangly carbine. Imagine the same Art Deco receiver and drum, but with a spindly 16-inch barrel and a foregrip that suddenly felt like it was hanging off a broomstick. It was technically compliant, historically reverent, and visually hilarious, a tuxedo paired with clown shoes. And yet collectors adore them, proof that even the awkward cousins can steal the family reunion photo. Pushing the design in the opposite direction, sanding it down to utility. The M1 and M1A1 dropped the blish lock, simplified the internals, ditched the fancy sights, and moved the charging handle to the side. In other words, the Thompsons stopped pretending to be complicated and just became a stout blowback. That contrast is the punchline of the whole saga. A weapon born from a friction delay theory ended up at its best when engineers admitted brute simplicity did the job. Elegant machining gave way to stamped practicality, and nobody on the line complained. Of course, collectors and armorers couldn't resist making the Thompson stranger. Exhibition guns wore nickel and gold, scroll work, and presentation plaques. Prop houses in Hollywood lopped barrels, grafted sci-fi sight hoods, and turned them into alien blasters long before Sterling SMGs got their Star Wars moment. Police departments fielded cutaways and see-through training receivers that let rookies watch the bolt dance. A curious, almost whimsical inversion of a weapon designed for chaos. When the gun retires from war, it becomes a canvas, and the Thompsons art show ranged from elegant to gloriously gaudy. And then there are the legends that refuse to die. Chinese conversions to bottleneck cartridges, clandestine one-off calibers, spade grip mounts on Jeeps, even two-gun anti-air rigs. Some existed in ones and twos, others are fever dreams misremembered from grainy photos. What matters for our purposes is the pattern. The Thompson invites tinkering because it sits at a crossroads, heavy enough to take abuse, simple enough to modify, iconic enough to inspire sins against good taste. Every decade tries to remake it in its own image, and every decade leaves a few glorious oddballs behind. So when you think Tommy gun, think family. The belt-fed dreamer, the bayonet-ready pretender, the long-barreled comedian, the silenced diva, and the blunt M1 realist, all roaring in chorus.